In case you can't hear me, we're going to be on mic, and we would ask anybody who speaks to use the handheld mic, because MCAT is recording this for broadcast later, so everybody can know about updating Missoula's consolidated plan, which is what we're here to talk about this afternoon. Do we want to do a quick round of introductions? I probably should explain. Okay, we won't, but I'm Mike Barton. I'll identify our OPG staff. I work both in the long-range planning and in the grants division. Nancy Hart, who works with both Home and CDBG. Nancy Rattel also works with both programs and others as well. Where's our boss? Cindy Wolfcool. She's is the boss of everything. Melissa Gordon. Peggy Seal used to work in our office. Oh, and still does apparently. I'm sorry. I don't. Jean Hart. Anybody else that I'm? Does anybody else work with me that I don't recognize? Anyway, thank you all for coming. We do this every 5 years. This meeting is intended to gather information so that the staff can draft an update to the city's consolidated plan. This is the plan for HUD-funded activities in Missoula, and we will be bringing it forward to the city council for its adoption. And this is among the chances, the opportunities, you're going to get to weigh in and say, is it working? Is it not working? If it's working, that's wonderful. If it's not, what do we need to change? Any questions? This is our agenda. So we're going to start with the in 1998, after a series of meetings not unlike this, the community recommended and council adopted 10 objectives that are intended to guide our community development block grant and home activities primarily. These are they. And they are writ large, I think you will notice. And the first objective of our meeting this afternoon is to go over these to determine if people are still in general agreement that we need to pursue these objectives, but we would certainly also look and do, as I say, every 5 years, and even in the interim, if something comes up, we would look to modify these. We would look to maybe add some things if people have recognized activities that aren't covered by these objectives, or even to take some off if we've discovered that we are not pursuing those objectives. And we can do these in probably many different ways. Do we want to, Oh, Nancy makes me stand up here, but she's actually running the meeting.
Thank you. We'll never get through this meeting if we have Mike talk the entire time. We do have until 4, and it's less of a burden on you, and that's what we're all about, is lessening burdens. This is going to be a really working session, so I want to make sure we do this because to give you time to look at everything, because I literally, you're going to have to be working. No, don't run now, but we've got the door blocked here, as you notice. Next on our agenda, we'll talk about needs and how we meet them. We'll have some worksheets that we'll hand out that show basically some of the possibilities for programs, and we'll have you go, when we get to that point, I'll show you what exactly we're looking for. It's going to be a matter of looking at priorities for the needs, how many you think we need of some particular thing, like if it's rental housing, how many units do you think we're going to need in the next 5 years? We're going to talk about a timeline for that as to when things that you think need to happen really fast or a longer period of time or a longer period of time. And then after that, we'll put together an actual timeline that will list out what we see probably coming down the pike as projects for the next 5 years, and then anything we see coming longer than that. And then we'll take time out, and feel free during any of this, if there's some topic or some item that you want to get on the list that you don't think we've been talking about, just bring it up, because we can make sure that we're recording that as well. Because I know some of you have specific projects you want to talk about. Most of that will come out here in this needs section when we're talking about that part, where you talk about specific projects. And sorry, I spelled needs weird, and then I overwrote it, and it looked kind of weird. So we'll go ahead and start with the objectives.
Okay. And I think Nancy wants to move quickly through this. The first objective is intended to cover most of those activities that we've engaged in, that we've supported in support of homeless persons. Take a look. Let me know if we need to change anything. Our folks... Patty, I explained earlier that I need to take the offensive early in a meeting with you so that I still get to run it, even though... Thank you. Yeah. If anybody cannot see it, the objective number 1 is to assist the homeless by increasing and or expanding the availability of emergency shelter facilities, transitional and permanent housing opportunities, and supportive services and prevention programs, and to place greater emphasis on providing permanent housing as soon as possible for homeless individuals and families. Okay, I'm going to, unless I see somebody saying, oh, you should think about this, or maybe we should add, or maybe we should take off. I would even propose a takeaway here, but Nancy won't let me, so I'll keep going. Objective 1, once, twice? Okay. Well, then, Ellie, you folks, I assume that this one is... Yes, okay, we're good. Objective 2. And again, keep in mind that what we're doing here is trying to umbrella a large group of activities that can be funded by CDBG or home. This is objective number 2, is to increase and preserve the supply of affordable rental units for low and moderate income households, including special needs persons. We can acquire them or support acquisition, rehabilitation, or new construction. And this is on the rental side. We'll get to home ownership in a minute. Do we need any expansion, deletion? And yes. Miss Kent.
I would suggest, Mr. Burton, that we add as an eligible activity tenant-based rental.
Oh, my own rules.
Oh.
Otherwise, as I said, the
Are we?
watching on TV can't pick
Oh.
this up unless I pass that microphone around. Although this is the last thing on earth.
Control. Under objective 2, I would suggest that we add as an eligible activity tenant-based rental assistance. And that's something we've talked about throughout the last few years, and the recent Missoula Housing Authority survey indicated one of the greatest needs was first and last month's rent and a security deposit, and the tenant-based rental assistance program would allow us to be able to provide for that.
Any others on rental housing? Any comments on tenant-based rental assistance? We need to, if we are to provide tenant-based rental assistance through our home program, we need to recognize that in our consolidated plan. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, you are. You're absolutely right.
I think we have to put a slash in there, and it's not only rental, but it's deposit assistance, because not all programs cover rental assistance, and these families could also use some support services.
Wait.
The eligible expenses under the TBRA home program include not only security deposits, but utility deposits. So I meant the collective eligibility under the current home program rules.
Thank you, Pam. Pam is trying to help us out with some additional microphones off the council person's desks. So please grab them. Anything else on the rental side? I'm sorry. Thank you. Am I done with 2? Objective 3, increase and preserve affordable home ownership for low and moderate income households, including special needs persons. Again, these are intended to be fairly broadly encompassing, so. And the community did put one of our first homeowners with special needs into ownership just in the last year.
Foreclosure prevention. Would it be appropriate to put foreclosure prevention assistance there? Okay.
And clearly we support foreclosure prevention now and have, so that's in there. Anyone else? Okay, number 4 is a public facility objective. Improve neighborhoods by identifying and addressing non-housing needs, such as neighborhood level planning, deteriorating or non-existent infrastructure, such as sewer, transportation needs, street lighting, public facilities and services, and by assisting low and moderate income households in obtaining these services, and improving and enhancing neighborhoods and their ability to support economic development and affordable housing by providing necessary infrastructure such as sewer and transportation systems. We have done, under CDBG, several different projects that have provided either sewer or curb and sidewalk assistance to folks from low and moderate income households, primarily those who own their homes. Can we just get Patty a microphone? Could we? Why don't you come with a microphone?
I do. We've done a couple of residential facilities under the public facilities category, and I don't know if identifying and addressing non-housing needs modifies that entire list. It isn't permanent housing per se, but it is a residential model of treatment, so it's just a clarification as to those public facilities do things beyond sewer and water and street lighting.
So inclusion of the community service sorts of facilities. Some acknowledgement of that, I think, is so that as a for instance, not only that, but we have assisted the food bank with a remodel. We are being asked this year to assist both Watson's Receiving Home as well as the Partnership Health Center in their facility expansions. So what this says is community service facilities. And again, I don't think it would be inappropriate to recognize that as something that, while we think it's covered, it's not a bad idea to explicitly mention it. Anything else there with objective number 4? Okay, 5 is to promote economic development and invest in the Missoula workforce through support for entrepreneurship, local business growth and business innovation, worker education and skill enhancement that will strengthen the earning capacity of low and moderate income wage earners, targeting specific areas for reinvestment in order to produce a neighborhood impact, coordinating economic development needs with needs in other arenas, housing, human services, public facilities, and infrastructure. Now, we certainly recognize the the possibility of participating in economic development project with the use of particularly CDBG funds, and we have made at least 2 awards. What this category, if we could edit this down or boil it down, what this means basically is job creation. We can assist activities that will create new permanent jobs for low and moderate income people.
One thing that's happening around is multi-county planning for workforce development, and Missoula is often suggested as the hub for that. So I would like to see some inclusion in number 5, or at least acknowledgement of the fact that there is a regional process that has been ongoing, and we need to be part of that regional process because some of those jobs will reside in the city, but that whole impact could be multi-county.
And I assume part of that is recognizing that Missoula is an economic hub for a multi-county area, really. Anything else then on the economic development piece of that? As I said, we've made 2 awards to do this. Both have then were recaptured when the Missoula Area Economic Development Corporation actually, they returned the funds, or they returned the award, because they were not able to reach agreement with the enterprises that were intended to provide the job. So, but we have made funds available for that purpose.
I just wanted to say we should add transportation and that needs in other arenas, just to explicitly put it in there. On objective 5, coordinating economic development needs, housing, human services. Yeah, I think separate. Or put it in 4, I don't know.
But expand a little.
I mean, a big hindrance for people having jobs is having reliable transportation, obviously. So I think it could fit under economic development, but I don't know if it would be better under 4.
Well, you got the mic. Ask if anybody else wants to see.
Anybody? Pass the call.
That's why they call it Mike. I don't know. And anything else for number 5? To keep Nancy happy, I'm moving right along. Now, objective 6, further investigate and develop an action plan to address community-wide barriers to affordable housing and barriers to fair housing compliance.
Is that being, or has that been fulfilled at all with the zoning rewrite, do you think?
I don't think that that's so much addressed by zoning rewrite. We have, since our program began, since we became an entitlement jurisdiction and formulated one of these plans back in 98, we have contracted to do an analysis of barriers to fair housing, and a task force made several recommendations that the city has adopted. We recently completed an analysis of barriers to affordability that has resulted, at least in part, in the mayor establishing a task force and adopting a resolution intended to address affordable housing issues. Again, this is an umbrella sort of thing that allows us to do what very many of us who are in the housing part of the service network do.
Well, maybe it's just continue to investigate and update the plans that have been produced, because it seems like a lot of things. Seems like a lot of things have happened since that objective was written.
I was just going to agree with Patty. I think that the way it reads is that there seems to be a termination point, like develop a plan. So I like her comment about it's really an ongoing activity.
Keep in mind who I work for. Yes, we will recognize progress. Anything else there on 6? Forgive me for getting further and further away from you, you folks over there on the right-hand side. Objective number 7 is decrease housing and community environmental hazards. Anybody got a problem with that? I would think not, but give her a second. I'm moving to 8. I'm sorry, Steve.
What specifically do they mean by that, Mike? Is that indoor air quality? Is that water? Is that sewer? Is that air quality in the community? What does that exactly mean?
That means that insofar as we are allowed by funding, we would certainly entertain a proposal that addressed these objectives. So, as a for instance, although it's not it was not a project per se, but when we did the first land trust project over on what street, Jerry? Is Whittier Court, Holmes Street. It's very proximate to the railroad tracks. CDBG money could be used in that instance to provide a sound barrier against what was perceived by HUD Environmental as excessive noise coming from the bumping yard across the street. And so we could mitigate that particular hazard. We have also at least entertained a proposal, although it never came to fruition, to redevelop the White Pine Sash site, and would have certainly involved some mitigation of a community environmental hazard. And in fact, we are going ahead and have funded or will fund the development of a park on that White Pine site where mitigation of hazards will be a portion of what we do.
With existing housing stock that's affordable and needs to be retrofitted for energy conservation and things like that to make them affordable, existing housing stock, a lot of hazards exist with just regular aspirating water heaters, can provide indoor air quality problems with carbon monoxide and things like that. Would it apply towards things like that too with existing housing stock that needs to be improved from a health perspective?
It certainly could. And for those of you who aren't as familiar with this program long time, we're going to describe and are describing a huge laundry list of activities in which we could participate. Every year we come to when we come to talking about what we will fund, we are faced with a very limited supply of funding. So, again, as a for instance, lead-based paint is clearly recognized as a housing hazard by HUD and our community. And should we get a proposal to participate in housing rehabilitation, and we have, and we do fund housing rehabilitation, lead-based paint has to be part of that analysis and has to be mitigated in any home that we go into that is pre-1978. Now, if you visit you could visit with Jim Morton or any housing, well, Steve, you know this. Once you discover lead-based paint in a structure, you immediately, and we incur then a great deal of expense because it must be mitigated. What we find is that given a relatively small amount of money that's available under these programs to Missoula, Montana, we're not going to get into a lot of homes to do that. But it says, well, that it is a possibility. Lead-based paint, asbestos is clearly another issue that's emerged here lately. So, and in western Montana, obviously. Again, had we the money, we could use CDBG as a for instance to go into every home that's owned and occupied by low and moderate income folks and mitigate for zone light insulation. But again, the resource is limited. So when we go through this list, this is not prescriptive in the sense of we will do all of these things. In fact, part of the process that we're talking about, and through our consolidated plan, you all come to the city and make proposals for activity. What we want to do is make sure that the sorts of activity that you would propose to address the needs of low and moderate income people as far as housing and community development goes can fit in this matrix somewhere.
I think it's just the way it's written. What you're really saying is mitigate environmental hazards in existing housing and the community. Because when I looked at it first, it says decrease housing. Like, well, what do you mean decrease housing? It's not written such that environmental hazards is the modifier for both of those things. And then it addresses Steve's question on existing housing is what we're talking about.
Grammatical changes are welcome. One thing I would like to mention that hasn't come here that I would entertain a suggestion from anyone here. There was at our September community meeting, there was some discussion about encouraging green activities, encouraging energy conservation and building and those kinds of things. So if anybody would like to suggest some language for that might go in here, this would be the time.
I guess broadly speaking on that objective, Mike and Nancy, if you wanted to suggest something like LEED certifiable would be an inclusive, I know, but it's a way of looking at what Nancy addressed, which was green, and really the essence of that is more energy conservation than anything else. So if you just wanted to say energy conservation to current Energy Star rating and code minimum is pretty paltry right now in terms of energy conservation, but retrofitting existing housing stock up to code minimum would be a huge leap in saving people money in their homes, and that's not an undue expense per unit just to get them up to code relative to going to LEED standards, which is a whole nother leap of craziness.
I don't know if I'd suggest incorporating a standard in this, and I didn't mean to imply that by green. So, and we get caught in this one. And again, and you've participated in rehab projects in housing. We've actually faced cases where if we bring an instance to the attention of the building department, it will be torn down, which our clients can't afford. I mean, we actually run into situations like that where our resource is simply not even close to sufficient to addressing the magnitude of some problems that people face in their homes. I mean, we have homes here that they were built years ago with 7-foot ceilings. Now, for some people that's fine, but if we get a request for a rehabilitation loan to come in and put in new windows and a roof, the building inspector is going to say, wait a minute, you can't leave this place with 7-foot ceilings. Well, you know how much 8-foot ceilings cost if you got 7? So
I guess I'd like to see something remain fairly broad as part of the objective so that people can apply it as specifically as they want to. So something where it says encourage the incorporation of green building practices and sustainable design features, and that lets them choose whether they want to go to a standard or just try to get one thing in there. Yeah, promotion.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. That, yes, and I didn't. Green, it's not sustainable enough? Huh? Okay, yeah. Number 8, for those of you way over there, and where this is going around the corner, this one's increase accessibility in compliance with ADA requirements. I see lots of head nodding. Patty hasn't raised her hand yet. I'm going to number 9. Number 9 is to plan effectively for future expenditure of Missoula's federal resources and seek increased funding for projects that meet community development objectives. Is there anybody in here who can't support that? Just don't give the mic to Patty.
Okay, but I think Objective 8 needs to also refer to compliance with Federal Fair Housing Act guidelines. ADA is only half the story. Or it could conversely just be more broad and say compliance with barrier-free regulations or something like that.
We'll wind up wordsmithing these, and unless I hear any objection from folks, our intent will be to include every sort of activity you've broadly touched on in our discussion. So I haven't heard anything that anybody said where we would say, oh no, we can't do that. So again, what we're trying to do here is to have a set of objectives that would be inclusive of activities, again, that you folks would see as beneficial to our clients. Larry, you look pensive. Do you want to?
Don't we comply with all those federal housing laws anyway?
And we can, the idea is that we can spend these funds to do it. Well, not so much to educate. I mean, please, let's not get radical. I read 9, and nobody said a word, and I assume that it's not a difficulty. I mean, we seek more federal funds and other funding, many times on your behalf, or we work in conjunction with you to increase funding opportunities. Again, this is an umbrella sort of statement. You're going to get thrown out of here now. It's number 10, Patty says. Expand the city's capacity to support identified human service needs for low and moderate income people. Everybody say, yeah. Yeah, that's an enthusiastic crowd, I know. Sir.
Mr. Barton.
Mr. Martin, sir, yes.
Is this number 10 the place that we could expand? Because we're talking about low and moderate income, but there are those who are slightly above these arbitrary income guidelines, and we all see them. And it would be nice to say somewhere in this plan that there is a recognition of those in our community who, because of these arbitrary income guidelines, don't receive assistance, but certainly are a vital part of the communities.
Quick. Here, I don't have anything to say.
What I put up there was, for those of you who wouldn't want to read it if they could, recognize the needs in the quadrant or the in our income range from 80 to 120% of the area median income, and I'll change that on there. So that's, but again, and we have run into this, and especially in the housing game. I mean, people at 120% of median here cannot afford to buy a home, for the most part. Anything else on the objectives? Mr. Oakes. Is it your birthday?
Yes.
What? Do we want?
Now I'm even sorry I came, but late. I need to apologize for being late. So I wanted to ask a question about objective number 3. I didn't hear the discussion on it. I see you have preserve underlined. I wonder if that was brought up, the need to replace trailer parks that are old and deficient. I know that's been a topic statewide to do, and I know that for preserve trailer parks for low and moderate income. I know that we've lost a bunch of trailer parks here, but not to the benefit of low and moderate income.
Are you including both home ownership and rental? Okay.
I was just wondering if Bob also meant something much broader, which is more than just the replacement, because he was talking about the preservation of the property. If you have a mobile home and you can't find a lot to rent where you can place it, then that's the other part of that we might want to put on there.
And isn't the issue, don't we almost always get into the pre-76 ones?
Right, but if the land is being bought up, then there's no place to park even the new ones. That was my point.
Mobile home courts, some recognition that that it is an affordable housing resource, and we are going to lose those opportunities. And as they are removed, right now there are no options for replacement.
Would you add replacement and rehabilitation? Adding replacement and rehabilitation, because some of these units can be rehabbed. The newer ones can be rehabbed. The older ones, pre-76, were before the code.
I can be done.
You done?
Do you want to?
I made one change to objective 10 on my very own. I changed to expand the city's capacity, to expand the community's capacity. The focus here has been pretty much for the consolidated plan on city, but as those of you who know who apply for grants with us, we go for every source that's possible, whether it's city or county, and this has been kind of a theme of both city and county, so I wanted to make sure that we kind of were consistent on that. So this is very helpful. I cannot tell you how much this is helpful, because this is what's actually going to end up in my computer when the consolidated plan gets written. And so we'll do some wordsmithing and get the objectives together for you. The next part is going to be getting a little more defined, and what we've got is a couple handouts. One is, yeah, leave them there for right now though, Mike, thanks. Very good. He's so cute. What we'll do is we'll hand out the kind of a synopsis of what was covered at the September community meeting, so that you can see what sort of projects were suggested and what kind of timelines and who was going to do it and the resources. And our fearless assistants over there will start handing those out to you. And then the second thing we have is the actual worksheet that we're going to work on. Can you hand out this one? The G, maybe? Oh, here, give me one. Okay, this next part you can either do by yourself or you can do in small groups, whatever you'd like to do. We also have the Jack Reedy room next door available if you want to go there, or if you need to write something. It's this really scary looking, lots of small type, 2 pages kind of a deal. And this is the condensed version from what HUD gives me. Basically, this lists just about every conceivable project that can be funded, or category of project that can be funded through CDBG or home. And those are coming around to you too. So you should have a sheet that's got colored printing on it, colored shading on it, and then you should get one of these little chart things here. And once everybody has a little chart thing, I'll go through it. More charts. A couple over here. You need them? Raise your hand if you still don't have one. Okay. Jim needs one of those. One of the September notes. Okay. Does everybody have one? Alrighty. So here's what this does. If you look on any page here, page 1 or page 2, these are how we actually divvy up the projects when we enter them. This is all kind of the duck feet underneath the pond that you don't normally see. This is how we split up the projects. Basically what we've got here is several columns that I'm going to use to help assess the need for some of these projects and when we would need them and how much it would cost. So the first category is priority. And what I'd like you to do, and you don't have to do this for every single one, for God's sakes, okay? What you need to do is go down through the list and pick out the ones that you're most interested in. And if you think that it's high, or if you see one that you say, we shouldn't be doing that at all, go ahead and mark low by it. However many of these you want to work through, okay? No requirement that you do all of them by any means. They're split into big categories of the disposition, acquisition, disposition, public facilities, and so on, and then underneath it are specifics of it. So you can go pick out specifics if you like, and if you find that you have a project that doesn't seem to fit into category, either ask us or just handwrite it in anywhere on there. So for the first column, write in high, medium, or low, just HM or L for that. For the second one is the need. This is based, and this is where working in small groups might be helpful. For those of you who work on programs that have waiting lists, and you know that you always have 50 people on the waiting list, maybe you can project that we need an additional 75 beds or housing units or services to people. Make your best estimate there. When? Now, soon, or eventually. Now would be like in the next year or two. Soon would be within the 5 years, and eventually would be after 5 years. This just kind of gives us kind of a general idea of what you see as the most critical timeline as to when things come out. How much? This is the good thing. This is where you get to actually say how much you think it's going to cost to do this. And it'll be like some huge number when we're done, which will be kind of fun just to see how big it gets. The last one is a portion percentage. That one is just that you can use this one or not. If you would prefer to use a percentage of how much of our resources based on 100% should go to acquisition or public facilities or public services, go ahead and jot that number there in those blanks. So if you think that 50% of it should go to public services and 30% to public facilities and those kinds of things. So there's 2 sides of it. We're going to give you about half an hour. So there's cookies and juice out in the hallway. This is a good time to take a break, stretch your legs, and we'll meet back here at about 20 after, somewhere in there. Huh? Anybody need a pen? Should we start ripping down? Either that or we just